Ba-da-da-da-da. I think you can hear me. I think I titled this Brave New World. Ugh. It's that time of the season. I need to wash my hands. Ba-da-da-da. Anyway, I wanted to talk about this book written by Aldous Huxley. That's my cat. I'll show you this cat. This is Mila. She doesn't like to be held, honestly, but she doesn't like mind it. She's very careless, but she's very chill. Anyway, I read this book recently, and it definitely just opened a sort of new door into a perspective. It's a dystopian novel, kind of based on a futuristic vision of our society and technology and its progression. I think what really interested me was something in the story was the characters and how they weren't necessarily focused on. They were very kind of like one character to the next character, back to this character, then this character, in small sort of paragraphs. Each character had their attention, but it was more of like a collectivized story that really held it all together. There was no one really had parents, the sort of people that kind of were created in the book were, there was no concept of mother and father. There was like conditionings, like you were born without a mother or father, kind of in a sort of incubator. I don't know. And then you kind of got thrown into these different ways of conditioning, and there was like different classes of people, like referred to as like alphas, deltas, epsilons, or betas, or different things. Relationships, like there was no just like I believe it's monogamous relationships. No one really had just that individual lover. Everyone was kind of just fucking each other and then kind of open about it and not really attached to it. I mean, to draw some parallels from the book to now, I think traditional relationships are kind of not dying, but there's more steps to them in a weird way. Like, we've kind of just substituted real work, real affection, real love, real sort of intimacy for kind of providing for your partner in a monetary way. So there's more or less a competition between other couples, between yourselves, more importantly. Other couples is kind of just getting out there, but like between yourselves, more importantly, you kind of have a standard of kind of just providing the expensive thing rather than like the intentional thing. Kind of just if you can provide this sort of item or this sort of security for me, it'll be, it's kind of like an agreement, sort of. As long as you can provide this level, I'm not specifying who in the relationship, man or woman, or woman or man or man. Just it's an ideological thing. It's a cultural thing that kind of you get up, brought up in, and I think in a way that can really isolate some people who are not not in a sense of that mindset, who don't really care for very expensive things, who don't really care about the usage of something or how something looks, compared to certain other ideological kind of person, where it's just like, if I don't have this, I won't be happy. So they base their sort of whole personality off receiving or obtaining uh, whatever it is they set their mind to about it. um, I mean, we see it all the time in kind of shows or movies, that sort of ideology. But I think I see it a lot in kind of the mainstream sort of obsession with celebrities or kind of politicians or characters, if you will, where it's just this fixed notion that has been implemented through you or to you through a sort of the electric medium, the screen, in many different ways. I mean, due to just kind of what is mainly flooding the gateways of information nowadays, of what people are constantly wanting to see in an informational or news sort of way. You know, it's more of like a self-prescribed, I guess, culture. You're kind of prescribing yourself with what you're prescribing yourself with a certain form of information and news, where the outcome of the information in the news has to have a reason, has to have a figure at the head of it, has to have a person who's directly involved with it. There becomes a sort of fixed structure of thought that just completely isolates the individual into the oneness of a group, kind of experiencing a group thought sort of thing. But it's not really a group thought. It's more or less just everyone is in the same pen. Everyone is in the same fenced in area, if that makes sense. I do think you can reach a sort of group thought, um, a group consensus, but on a much smaller scale with people. Um, when you just get in a groove or a rhythm or a flow state, if you will. This book is really interesting. It talks about a drug, um, called Soma, that where these people in this society take this drug Soma, like everyone does, to kind of like relieve themselves of the hardships or thinking, or like it's just the thing to do after your work or your service or after whatever you have done. It's the thing to do with people when you're in public. But it becomes the isolated thing you do as well. It's kind of like, I believe it to be very similar to kind of the structure or the formation of our thoughts towards drugs. But I also believe it to be very similar to what I just explained, the technology, the screen, the electric medium, where you can kind of You can see bad thoughts, bad ideas that really trigger you on the thing, on this, the screen. But due to algorithms and social media, which is the predominant, I believe that is the right usage of the word, but a very predominant form of what everyone or tends to use is social media. They get their information, they get their connections of local things, to keep up with the hub of celebrities. A man named Marshall McLuhan calls it the global village. He said that back in the 60s, or I believe the 60s. Um, it, the perspective of what this is has to change. Of our usage with it, where can we go with it? With technology, I'm meaning the screen, the electric medium. Can it always be used as, or is it always used as a sort of kind of removal from the reality at play? And I think certain formations or structures on the internet, on the global village, is definitely that, where it's completely useless. But things like YouTube, like this, the web of YouTube, the interconnectedness of ideas and videos is vast and very dense. I mean, due to algorithms, you can kind of sort of get in this stuck state of exploration of what you're seeing on the internet. But once you kind of stop habitually going towards the same thing, scrolling, like I've basically, I don't watch short form content anymore. Like the reels, or I just can't. It really it really just fucking fries my brain. Like I'm just like, that's too much. Then they go. You know what I mean? It's too much, and I really, I just don't. I'll definitely skim through long form videos and have moments where I can't decide on something and just kind of go video to video, which is, I guess, everyone does. And it's something that our animal minds are going to have to just deal with for now. But there comes a point when you are fully able to see through the sort of veil or the fence you're in, due to, in an algorithm, an AI implemented algorithm at that. And you can kind of go outside of it and you can use it to your advantage, where you can kind of test the limits and get more information, or learn very different things, like just learning guitar or learning an instrument in general, learning different painting techniques, learning about certain figures of history, learning about what's happening now locally, which I don't think a lot of people are looking local anymore, or wanting to build locally, because it's sort of, I literally think a lot of people think it's cringe. It's cringe to kind of care and talk about things in a very hippy dippy way, but I'm not. I wouldn't consider myself that, a very hippy dippy person. I think there are people who really get into that ideology of being, flower power, sure. But it's the same thing with metalheads or punks or poets or writers or politicians or anybody. You get so caught up in that thing where you have this image kind of held up in your mind, where if you don't reach that thing, it's sort of, it's sort of, it's like, kind of, in Minecraft, I know you guys fucking know Minecraft. There's a fucking pig you can ride, right? But you can also make in Minecraft a fishing rod with a carrot, and you just hold in front of okay, you get the idea. So the carrot is being held in front of the pig's face, and you're just kind of riding on the back, going for it in whatever direction you can kind of held it, and then the pig runs towards it. that analogy of kind of where the global village takes you, it immediately takes you to the world at large instead of sort of um, a local sort of recognition of who's around you, what's around you, what sounds are happening around you. And you have to kind of be really attentive on what you're doing on the internet and different, in the forms of social media or the internet in general. This book is really interesting. It has, some sort of character developments of like there is outside societies where it's like the more savage type of people, really just poor people, kind of not poor people in the sense of them being poor, right? Of kind of not having the structures of the electric world around them. That's kind of what makes them poor in the eyes of the, the author and the other society. Um, More savage like people. They're just having to do more, but they're very more shamanic type. But they're very they have mothers and fathers. They're not really taking the drug soma. They're really just kind of there's no soma in these societies. It's really just kind of life and people around you, and you're talking with them. Um, and it becomes sort of like a love thing between one of the savage people and one of the regular people, and then the futuristic dystopian society. Um, it's interesting to kind of see the clash of ideology in that way, because I think if you think about people now, the sort of not anti-technology or anti-electronics, but the sort of the people who don't access it as much, the people who have the luxury of not accessing it, I guess, in a way. Because, I mean, I'm in the United States, so I mean, that's for one thing. There, I've seen the the bad depths, the very, very deep, dark depths of poverty and poor people and kind of disgustingness in a way. And I've also seen the sort of um, better way of living, more kind of having a higher standard of living, if you will. And even then, there's a clash. It's not that they're different, no, or one's anti-technology or not, or anti-electronics. It's just there's some that have luxuries of using technology in different ways due to the forced kind of the enforcement of the environment at play. Um, and that just brings a whole, I mean, that just brings a whole different kind of level on the playing field. Because let's say for a minute that picture the electric medium, the screen, as the fence, a fenced-in area, and there's certain people operating in Mexico, for instance, or Canada, the opposites, right? Different weathers, different, geography, different types of people. You get what I'm saying. That sort of fenced in area in your physical environment while you're accessing the sort of global village of everything and everyone kind of puts you in a higher state of thought of a sort of fence within a fence, a higher state of thought beyond the current fence you're in, or the current fenced in area you're in. And there's sort of these sort of wars, if you will, ideological wars happening amongst the base layer, the first fence, which is, you know, kind of your environment and your reality, into the global village, where more people become the one thing, where you have separate things on the base level. Now on this the global village of the screen, you have a sort of combination of a lot of countries and a lot of ideologies and a lot of fenced in areas coming together to become one thing. And that alone creates another higher, I don't even know if it's a higher way of thinking, but it creates another fractalized sort of environment, a fractalized fenced in area above what everyone is currently operating on. Um, and you kind of get in this sort of mind prison, this mind prison of kind of, oh, everyone has this way, or everyone should and can have access to this. And then you know, you get the ideologies forming and separating themselves, uh, while kind of this baseline of the global village is just constantly running. And certain uh, groups or that kind of form on the global village have a way more luxurious aspect to their side of living than others. And it's not that's wrong or right or fair. It's just what it is. And kind of that implementation immediately separates you back on the physical environment. Because on this physical environment, you know, all you have to really understand is survival, like eating, drinking, sleeping, reproducing, uh, communicating with people. You know, all the physical animal side of things, breathing, right? Drinking water. And that already creates a kind of a diverse stereotype within your mind because of your physical environment and all the different things people reside in on the physical environment. Now, on top of that, you have to, we, or not you have to, but I guess we all have to kind of, we take into account the electric environment, the global village, almost first and foremost. And I think it's because it's not too prevalent, but it's one of the only things that's just prevalent. I believe that's the right usage of the word. If not, it's one of the thing. It's like one of the only things that people interact with nowadays and can interact with, because society itself has dumbed itself down. There's not as many third spaces, where I'm talking about, like, you know, work and then home and then what's that third space you go to. There's not a lot of that. And I mean, at least around where I am. I mean, there are, sure, but they've been, I wouldn't say hijacked, but there's a certain cultural normality that exists in those third spaces that is kind of just a self-degrading habit, which I'm talking about alcohol, which alcohol can be seen as soma, definitely. I think alcohol, gambling is a very big normality, sports in general. You know, you kind of get in what I was talking about earlier, the sort of group thought, and it really just kind of, I mean, to someone, I guess, for like me, or, you know, like a few of my friends, it's just not fun. It's, to me, it's not. It really isn't. It's almost, it's very unnatural. Let's just say that. It's like when you walk by a backyard and there's a fence and the dog is just barking at you. Probably a really nice dog, but he's just barking at you, barking at you, barking at you. Because all he knows is the fence. I think in society now, if we're going to talk about conditioning, the electric medium is something that has to be taken into account at a very, very, very serious uh, realization of what it is and what it can be used as and what it has been used as. It's, I wouldn't say it's unnatural, but it's being used in a not so natural way. You could definitely say it's a tool, but there comes an idea, that I've been thinking about is the first car was built before the roads were paved and made and graveled or whatever you want to say. I believe that this sort of thing has been paved before the roads of technology. Whatever that means, I'm not sure. I can contemplate. Something I saw the other day, I went to the library to pick up a couple books. Terrence McKenna book. Real interesting guy. And more people, not even more people, it was just these people. I didn't see anyone just reading, but everyone there, the librarian, the random people just sitting there to sit in the warmth or whatever. None of them were reading books. None of them were reading books. They were using the free Wi-Fi. They were on all the computers. And some of them, I remember seeing like a game being played and then TikTok on a few. Literally TikTok on a live. Like, I'm not saying all books are great. There's certain things that people can read and can't read, where it's just like you're bored or you're not processing the information. But they just go there to like take the free Wi-Fi, even though the books are free too, and it takes longer. In my opinion, it takes kind of a sort of longer approach of understanding a whole thing. Sort of whole idea. Yeah, it's just getting weird out here. I think it's going to in the next 5 years, it's going to change drastically. And I've seen all the things. I've seen all the generations before me where they're like, "Oh, this is going to happen, and we're going to reach this revolution, or this, we're the end times are here." I'm not saying the end times are here. I'm saying in the next 5 years, things will become drastically different on some sort of level. The roads will begin to be paved and created like they are now through the electric car, through the electric medium. That's what the global village. The global village is the car before the paved roads. Now, what comes after the global village is, I don't know. And I think that's kind of what most of us are kind of coming to in a sense is well, you can either play the game of the society or you can kind of just wait. And I think a lot of people are waiting for something to happen that's only going to happen if people do it. I don't know what that means. I'm probably crazy. So, goodbye.